Acha, kindly share with us your personal reminiscences with His Grace Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios.
Good morning, Acha. I'm grateful to you for conducting such an interview about His Grace Dr. Paulus Mar Gregorios of glorious memory, because of being a student of him 40 years ago, and because he was one of the most prominent theologian of our church. My BD studies at Old Seminary, Kottayam, was from 1981 to 85. So before that, I had little information about the contribution of Gregorius to the church. I knew that he was the principal. I knew that he was writing articles and books, but nothing more. During the 4-year period, it was a productive uh, period for him as a theologian and an ecumenist, and he had a lot of travel. So therefore, we didn't get any class at the BD level. But whenever he came back from international journeys, he used to attend all the chapel services, irrespective of his health or irrespective of his hectic, hectic schedule. So, especially even after the evening chapel service, he used to deliver a sermon every day, practically every day. And this was, on the one way, a summary of his experiences of the latest travel that he made, not about the country or the geography, but about the theme of the conferences he attended, or the philosophical and theological questions that he was addressing those days. And of course, Bible studies were also there. And then uh, the things which I remember from these years is number one, uh, his uh, initiative to start a federated faculty for master level theological studies in Kerala. Marthoma Theological Seminary, Trivandrum Kannammoleയുള്ള CSI, KUTS, Kerala United Theological Seminary, നമ്മുടെ സെമിനാരിയും ചേർന്ന് ഒരു ഫെഡറേറ്റഡ് ഫാക്കൽറ്റി ഫോർ റിസർച്ച് ഇൻ റിലിജൻ ആൻഡ് കൾച്ചർ, വിച്ച് ഈസ് in short from FFRRC, and that was founded just before we got admission in the seminary. So we could observe the initial development of that research center, and he was very much committed to the cause because Vatakunal Baba was the head of the church. Uh, His Holiness Mohammed Basilius Marthoma Mathews the first. And if somebody could influence Baba the remaining, those days was none other than Paulus Mar Gregorios, because it was a federation of Orthodox seminary and Protestant seminaries. The Marthoma Seminary as well as the Kannamala Seminary, both were Protestant seminaries, theologically saying. But it was a wonderful, wonderful experience for us, meeting the people who came for higher studies. Then it was only MTH studies. So there was a CNI quiz from Delhi. There was our own Matthew Vaidyan Achan and a quiz from the Marthoma Church. So we could observe the result of ecumenism at the theological level. And another thing which remains in my memory is the Serambur convocation, which happened in our own seminary. I think it should have been 1982 or 83. So, as the principal of a seminary, I could I could watch how he organizes the things and how he deliberates in the meetings. So I myself and Father Dr. Abraham Woman of glorious memory, we were appointed as stewards. So we have to hand over the microphone from one person to the other. And so his views were accepted by the others. And at one point, he had to be very, very serious about a decision of the Senate. That I remember. I don't remember the theme of the decision, but he was single-handedly opposing the move of the Senate to take a decision which should have affected the Senate life in the negative direction. And then in 1984, we had the 75th anniversary of the MGS ISM. That also happened in our own premises. Theophilus Trimani of glorious memory was the president of MGS ISM during that time, and he was the former principal of the seminary. But we as students, and we could participate in that. There was a pandal rising up, and we, the third-year students at that time, we had a wish that a pandal is there, a stage is there. Why can't we have our ordination there before the Jubilee ceremony? So we approached Mar Gregorios Trimani. The synod was also happening there in Sophia Center in those days. So we, as a class, we had a letter, and who will hand over the letter to him? And people said, you give. So I didn't have any personal contact with him. So he was coming out of the synod in the evening, 4:30, I think. And I was following him with fear and trembling, I should say, in quotations. And his room was in the northern block, above the mess hall. So when he wanted to go up the stairs, he knew that I was following him. So he turned back and he asked me, why do you follow me? I said, I have a letter to hand over to you. And he said, what letter? So Trimani, please, you read it. And he said, no. You have to open the letter and read it out. So I read the letter, and he was so angry at me. And he said, you go back and make your studies. No, I'm not going to give a permission for this. But after 2 days, he called our class in his room. And he said, I was angry because it's a very difficult thing that you have asked for, because you represent different dioceses, and it is the prerogative of the diocesan bishop to ordain you. If I ask for a permission of that in the Holy Synod, the Synod may misinterpret it, that the seminary is catching all the authorities of the diocesan bishops. So, and then he said, I can give you 2 days leave, because students are from Malabar and Madras. And he gave us the 2 days leave, and we approached all of our bishops, every student, and some of them reluctantly and some of them pleasantly gave us the permission. And in 1984, May 18, we 17 people got ordained as subdeacons in that pandal. And then came the Jubilee of the MGS ISM. These are the fine memories of me as a BD student. And then my MTS studies was from 87 to 89. And I took the New Testament studies. And at the end of we had a course by him. It was a course on Marxist philosophy. It was done in his room. His room was full of books and shelves. And he was walking and taking one book from here, another from there, and he was lecturing. And that was a beautiful experience. At the end of my studies, he said, you go for higher studies. And which country you like? So I said, as a New Testament student, I would prefer Germany. And he said, okay, I will try. And you get the permission of your diocesan bishop, late lamented Georgis Parostatios. And Triveni was very happy to recommend me. And I got a WCC scholarship, and I went to Germany for PhD, DTH studies in 1989, September. These are the memories of during that period. And during my DTH studies in Friedrich Alexander University in Erlangen, in those days, West Germany, the German wall fell down 3 months after my arrival there. So I could watch all these things. And then when he used to visit Germany for various reasons, and he was always supporting, always motivating me as a research student. And then I have attended the CCA assembly in Seoul, Korea, 1985, and I could see how he leads the Christian Conference of Asia. And then we had a dialogue with the Lutheran Church of India. So as a deacon, I also got a chance to present a paper there. So these are all pleasant memories of Gregorius ceremony in those days.
Acha, you as being a professor of New Testament, and Tirimeni also has taught the subject at various national and international levels, and his Bible studies are well known all over the world. Uh, can you help us understand what was his approach for Bible studies and especially towards understanding New Testament?
Actually, Paulus Gregorius Tirimeni was a theologian, especially an Eastern theologian. And New Testament was not his direct topic of teaching. But as I told you, he used to take Bible studies in the chapel, seminary chapel. And all these studies were new experiences for us because he will take a passage and he will explain the passage, surpassing all of our knowledge about that passage and all the conventional way of interpreting a New Testament text. And actually, he was well known around the world as a Bible a study a specialist since 1961, the New Delhi Assembly of World Council of Churches. Then there were Martin Niemöller was one of the resource persons, and he was another resource person. So from the second day onwards, people were storming into Paul Verghese Achen's classes because Niemöller was a German theologian, worldwide renowned scholar, but the way in which he taught, that was something special. So he was, as a teacher, he was explaining things very simply. He and B.C. Samuelson both had that quality. So that now when I remember back, I would use a metaphor. Why the Pacific Ocean is so calm at the upper level? Because it is so deep. So that is why theologians like Paulus Gregorios and V.C. Samuelson, they were very quiet, calm, and carefully listening to the questions of the students and understanding the wavelength of the students and giving answers as per the wavelength of the student. And for him, the Greek language was it was very easy for him, and he took words of theological importance, and he told us about the etymology and how it can be used for theological explanation. All these things were very attractive. And then, of course, the Eastern theologians were referred in the classes, and in the Bible study meetings. And in the MGS ISM conference and youth movement conference, he took classes. These were all very simple. And the young minds of those time, they were very much motivated and attracted to that giant of learning. But one critique I have, that is, he always had um, uh, a little reference to the Indian realities. He was more an Eastern theologian, and as many of us know, he was always against the Western way of interpreting the scripture. But the Indian realities, that he didn't give more importance to those things. That's a minor observation in that direction.
Acha, the theological formation or the education, the standard of the theological education, especially in the within the Orthodox community, in one way we can say was elevated to another realm under the leadership of Metropolitan Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, you are right in stating that thing, because our church was far away from the Roman Empire and other Eastern churches. So we had connection with the Persian, Syrian, and other Alexandrian bishops and the churches. But I doubt whether any of these churches considered our church as a church with a deep theology. Even though we had, even though when we go through the Kalpanas and the sermons of our Catholicos and our bishops, uh, we today we know that they had the knowledge of the Eastern theology, but it was not expressed to the outside world. So Philippos Theophilus Thirimeni may be the beginner of giving an idea about the Indian church in the Western churches, England or Germany or other parts of the world. But as a church with theology, that was introduced by Paulus Mar Gregorios. He had that capability. The philosophical foundations which he had, and that was very useful, because for the Eastern churches, the theologians from Russia or from Greece, even the Coptic theologians, they didn't consider us as theologians with a philosophical foundation, even though India was considered to be a land of philosophy. But concerning the Eastern theology and its philosophical foundation, they didn't consider us in the right way. And here we have to mention the dialogues between the Oriental Orthodox family and the Eastern Orthodox family also, because in 1960, Tribeni entered into the ecumenical world actively since 1961. And his personal friendship with Father Nikos Nisiotis of the Greek Orthodox Church, both were associate secretaries at the WCC level, and their personal friendship had contributed much to the theological development of our church in particular, and that of the Christian church in general. And the dialogues between these two Orthodox families from 1964, the first meeting in Ars in Denmark, up to 1981, when a joint communique was published at Cairo, he contributed much to the theological standpoint. So he could, the Greek theologians, Achan, their arrogance and their way of watching other people. But Gregorius Trimani was never he stooped before these people. He always raised his head in front of these world theologians, and he could say that our church is capable of understanding these theological particulars, and we have our own way of understanding these things. So Triveni was the president of the Philosophical Congress of India at a time too. So all these contributed much. And in the dialogues, the unofficial dialogues which started in 1964, and later on the official dialogues between these churches, in all the meetings, he had presented papers. And V.C. Samuelson also presented papers. Concerning the theology of the Council of Chalcedon, Tirumeni accepted V.C. Samuelson as an outstanding scholar. And both these fathers, they brought the families together. Unfortunately, if my reading is correct, in the Oriental Orthodox family, there was none like Paulus Mar Gregorios or B.C. Samuelson to represent the whole family of Oriental Orthodox side and to interpret these things and to make a debate with the Eastern Orthodox theologians. So that was a God-given gift to our church, and we should be proud of the fact. And then his theological assessment of Gregory of Nyssa, his doctoral thesis was presented in Sarambo University, that Cosmic Man. That is a work of a tremendous importance. And his book, like Human Presence, that is widely discussed even today. And his books, his articles, and all these are of much contribution. The world recognized our church as a church of theology only because of Paulus Mar Gregorios Triveni. There are many others, but the very first name that comes to my mind is Paulus Mar Gregorios.
Acha, when we study and understand the life of Metropolitan Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorius, it is a challenge for us how to transfer or how to share this information or share these valuable lessons to the younger generations. Can you suggest few ways by which we can really help our youngsters know that we are blessed to have these many works and literature, especially in orthodoxy?
Yeah, there is a big point because our youngsters should concentrate more on the writings of our fathers. We had sufficient theologians, and Paulos Mar Gregorios Triveni is the first and foremost among these. And if they carefully read his writings, even though they are not theologians in the strict sense, they will understand why our church is very strict about this or that thing. And The Cosmic Man is a book of more philosophy than theology, if my reading is correct. That may require 2 or 3 readings. But the other books, Human Presence, or the books about disarmament, or the books about priesthood, or the books about other theological matters, these are written in simple English, and they can go through it. And after his demise, K.M. Georgeson and Jacob Kurinachan took initiatives to publish the writings which were already not published as posthumous works. And during my tenure as the principal of the Orthodox Theological Seminary, since 2021 November, the faculty took a decision to publish all his unpublished works. So I have handed over the files from the archives to John Thomas Keringatlachen. And during the last 2.5 years, a team of students are working on it. And our dream is to publish these works. Some of them are in Malayalam, some are in English, in 10 volumes. In 10 volumes. So he was a prolific writer, as you know. So 10 volumes will be there in the market within a few months. That is what I understand. Keringatlachen is giving a leadership in that project. So we have worked together And even it was helpful for the students who were working as stewards in this project. They could also go through the files, they could type them down, and they also can be benefited out of this. And that is one thing. Another thing is, I think we should publish something like a catechetical book. You know, the Catholic Church's UCAT, simple questions, simple answers. So if we can publish something like that, especially using the theological writings of Paulus Gregorios and V.C. Chamolachan and Ostatius Trimeni, we can produce something which will be useful for the next generation, because today's youth, they don't have much time to go through a whole book. They want everything in capsules, and their questions are different. The youth from the Gulf area, their questions are related to the Islamic interpretation of Christianity. And the youth in America, their questions will be regarding a secular, purely secular Western country. The questions of India, Indian states, and last but not least of Kerala. So all these four groups, they have different questions about the theology of our church. So if you are able to, if we are able to publish a catechetical book in a capsule form, maybe 150 or 200 pages with dozens of questions in brief sentences, that will be very much useful for the theological development of the church. And we can produce very good lay theologians and priest theologians and future bishop candidates who can go out into the world and reflect on matters which are of significance for this generation.
So my last question, what will be the few qualities of Tirmeni? I know there are many qualities, but what would be the few qualities of Tirmeni, Gregorius Tirmeni, that can help both our priests and our youngsters of this generation to have a better perspective of life?
Yeah, I think that is one of the best questions that one should ask today, because the approach to priesthood is changing day by day. If we go through the autobiography of Paulus Mar Gregorios Trimeni, he didn't want to become a priest in the beginning. He was just an ordinary young person, but faithful of the Malangre Orthodox Syrian Church. And in the beginning, he was in the Jacobite faction. And after 1958, even he was very active in the unity of the two factions in 1958. And he was working in the Post and Telegraph department. So that was the beginning. And by God's grace, he was put in Ethiopia as the personal secretary of King Haile Selassie. And I think that is the time when he was open to the Orthodox world, because the Ethiopian church is one of the biggest Orthodox churches in the world. And he was teaching in the seminary. He might have confronted theological questions from the Ethiopians. Even though they are poor, they should be rich in understanding the Orthodox theology. So that should have helped him a lot. And then he went to United States, and then he came back to Kottayam as the principal, and then he became a bishop. He became an ecumenist. He was the president of the WCC. In all these years, what we see in him is he was very much committed to the faith and traditions of the church. He was never a negative critic of the church. He criticized things, but not the day-to-day affairs of the church, but the theological dealings of the church. And he criticized the Western church more than our own church. So that was his specialty. And his dream was to contribute as much as possible to this ancient St. Thomas Church. Today, I doubt if I am wrong, please forgive me. Today, I think many of the priests of this generation, they ask themselves, what can I get from the church as return? So, priests of his generation and the generation next to him, they were thinking day and night, what can I contribute to the church? Not in terms of money or finances, no. How can I raise the name of the Mar Gregorios Orthodox Church? And how can I make the church the best church in the world? That approach is lacking in many of the young priests. I don't say in all the priests. There are priests who are committed to this cause. And he was not, I see, as a principal and theological teacher, I have seen, and today also I see, many of our priests are dissatisfied. Maybe about the worldly things, maybe about the facilities, maybe about the church politics, maybe about the parish level debates and all these things. But what we have to learn from these stalwarts is how we can manage all these things. These are not so important. More and more important is the theological development of the church and the young minds. How can the youngsters, the children, they can be brought up as the best faithful and orthodox people? How can we lead them into the path of divinization? That was his dream. That is what I understand. And he was always very kind to people who were suffering, the poor. So nobody knew about his charity activities. He was doing a lot of charity activities, but in secret. So many people thought he was not doing such things. No, he was very much concerned about the poverty of our country and the poor families. And he himself underwent sufferings and poverty and all these things in his personal life too. And he was very much close to the children. Maybe he was very serious to the seniors, but to the young children, I can tell you, I don't know whether it should be said openly. When he visited Germany once, he was having a hectic month, and he didn't have enough time to cut his nails. It's a simple example. So my son was very small. So as a boy of 4 or 5 years, he simply asked him, "Why don't you cut your nails?" So Trimini was very busy, so he didn't have that care during those days because he was very much active in international activities. But what happened is he sent somebody to purchase a nail cutter, and he cut it on that day itself and showed him that little child. He showed, "See, my nails are now beautiful. Do you agree?" So this is an approach. I'm not. I don't know whether it can be said openly, but this is an approach. How a child gets hold of an imprint of a bishop, of seniority and serious engagements.
Thank you, Acha, for your very kind sharing and informative session. Your thought-provoking ideas will definitely help our youngsters, priests, and everyone to get benefited from the teachings of Mar Gregorius.
Yeah, Shinwacha, I greatly appreciate you. So I consider as unlucky because I could not teach you at the seminary level. I was here at Kottayam. And I go through your videos and your interviews, and you have published books too. So what I have to appreciate you is your concern for this ancient church and your concern for the diaspora youth. And I think all these interviews will be beneficial for the youth and children, especially of the diaspora, and how much pain you take for all these interviews, I know. And your selection of resource persons, that is also to be appreciated. And I do appreciate all the viewers, the audience. They spent some time for viewing all these things, and it will be a learning process for them too. It can be called as a YouTube course on Paulus Mar Gregorios training. So, yeah, as a joke, I like jokes always. So I think my proposal as a joke is you have to give a certificate at the end of this course, interview course on Paulus Mar Gregorios training. God bless you, Acha. God bless all the viewers. I'm humbly grateful to all of you. Thank you very much. And pray for me. I'm a poor sinner. Pray for me and for my work as a theological teacher of the church, even though I have retired formally. Thank you.
Thank you, Acha. Thank you. Thank you.